One second, I share my screen. Yeah, so tell me if you see my screen.
We've seen it before, and yeah, good now.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, today we will be looking into data-driven decisions. So just a little bit gateway into a successful future in data analytics. But yeah, I don't mind the fancy title, but indeed what we'll be looking at is really all the different roles that take part in the whole data and analytics chain. So all the people that take part in developing, I would say, moving from raw data to insights. So who are the key players in all this space? So that's basically what we'll be looking at. And yeah, my name is Victor Kubam, and I'm a data and analytics manager with pretty much 7+ years of experience in the field. And during that time, I've worked in different roles, starting from a data analyst up to data architect or machine learning architect. So most of the roles I'll be mentioning, like I said, might be a bit technical, but also we would see all the other roles that are not technical. And if you have questions or if you've heard about certain roles, because there's something that is also I've noticed throughout my career is that there are several names for the same thing. And my experience is no two roles are ever the same. You can have inside the same company two data scientists, but the skill sets are completely different. So sometimes it's really good to go into the details of what that job role is all about, not just stay at the level of, oh, I see a job title, maybe a data scientist or data analyst. Sometimes the content really, really matters. So these are things that you have to take, I would say, take care of. If I don't know if they have access to the mic, we quickly go through some intro or we just pass through.
I think they do. I think it's best they can introduce themselves,
Yeah,
uh, so that you know how to. Yeah.
indeed. So maybe from my screen, we can start from left. I see Gwendoline. Just a quick introduction, name, field of
Yeah,
study, experience.
good evening, everyone. My name is Gwendoline Kalsuma. Um, I'm currently studying a bachelor's program in business management, a major in
Okay,
marketing. Yeah,
okay,
thank you.
thank you. And then Vanessa, Anang. Yeah.
Mm, Yeah, good evening. I'm
Mm,
Vanessa and I have a master's in business process management. That's it.
okay. And then there's Derek.
Yeah, I am Derek Brown. I am currently in Germany doing my master's in analysis and design of social protection system. And then yeah, I've took some bootcamp programs here in Germany concerning data analytics.
Okay.
And yeah,
And then I see this Bitame Lucia.
Hi, good evening. I
Hi.
I have a degree in maths and computer science. Then I equally have a degree in business management. But I was working up until recently when I just had a baby last month. So I
Okay.
am looking for something new now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the introduction. I think now I have a pretty good view of the people in the call, and Dam I know, Ivo I know, so I don't think, and I think you know them, so we will pass this to. Okay. So back to the presentation. So yeah, the agenda. So I will just try to go a little bit through the history of data analytics roles. So what has happened in that space, and then we look at the current situation. So what are the different roles that are, I would say, quite active in this space, and then we look at the future, what will change based on what we see now, and then we take some questions. Okay, so first one, introduction. So yeah, what is data analytics? I think there are different kinds of ways to express this, but for me, it's just practically the process of going from collecting data to actually getting insights from that data. And sometimes it might be, yeah, like I said, it involves so many roles in the collection process. You might need someone that will be able to identify all the different kinds of data that need to be collected, how this data needs to be collected. Then you have the guys that do the cleaning. Yeah, you might use maybe just simple Excel sometimes, or it might go as technical as really putting in place a pipeline to process this information. Then you have the guys that analyze it, and then you have the guys that communicate or present this information or the insights that they get from this information to the rest of the public. Or you can actually create artifacts which are like dashboards which people can self-serve service, that they can like self-service, so you can go in there, browse, and pretty much get the insights that you need. So this is a little bit the term that we use to coin all these group of activities. So, like I said, it involves just collecting, cleaning, processing, exploring, modeling, and communicating. And so there are like four principal types of data and analytics. So you have the predictive ones, so the predictive data analytics. So in this kind of, I say in this group of roles, is pretty much identifying trends in the data, so correlations. So for example, you can see something like maybe if the size of the house is increasing, the price is increasing. So trying to identify this kind of correlations, and then so that you can be able to predict new events based on these correlations. And you can be able to also look at stuff like causation. So this is really like statistic, really going statistically. So really be able to say, okay, it's actually the size of the house that really caused the increase in price. But we all know there are several factors that can combine together to affect the price. So really putting really a measure on how much one factor affects another factor. So that's really predictive. Then you have prescriptive, so just prescribing in terms of, I think mostly it's with big data. So when you have a lot of data and you just want to, for example, explain what's happening, and so that you can be able to, I'll say, predict the future based on different data sources. Then you have the diagnostic stories, like yeah, diagnostics like hospital, going to the hospital to the doctor, and the doctor trying to understand what's happening, and you can tell them I have headache, I have this, and based on that they can give you a diagnostic. So it's also the same with data. So when you analyze data, you see certain things, and based on this you can dig further to really understand why certain things are happening. And in this case you start putting stuff like alerts, querying the data, drilling really into the data. And then you have the, yeah, I would say the most fun one, which is descriptive, and so just describing what happens. And most of the time is really creating reports that you share with the rest. So it's actually communicating what you've discovered in the previous three kinds of data analytics. So I don't know if there are questions around these four main blocks, or I would say the big blocks when it comes to data and analytics. Okay. And so we try to look at the evolution of the different roles. So I think around 1960, you had the statistician. So the real mathematical guys, like they really try to, because at that time there was not also, and there was not, how can I put it? The amount of data collected was quite small. So to be able to make decisions from this data, you had to really, how can I say, model the distribution from which this data is produced. So what it simply means is uh, w- trying to understand the source that is producing this data. So you try to make certain assumptions in order to understand the process that is producing the data. So you try to model the process when you see the outcome. So early on, we started with the statisticians. Later came the data analysts. Um, with the advent of computers, the amount of data generated also started increasing. And so you started having analysts that will use computers to automate a little bit some tasks of analyzing the data. And then the next group were the business intelligence guys or specialists. So these are like tools that you would develop to make, I would say, insights more accessible. So like creating dashboards, data warehouses. So really creating business intelligence tools that can help to, um, I would say, analyze data. Then later you became the data miners or the data scientists. So these were like also, I would say, technical people, like the statisticians, but then combining these technical or theoretical skills with empirical skills, plus using computers to be able to do analysis, and build predictive models to be able to predict the futures based on correlations that they find in the data. Then the next group of people were the machine learning engineers. So after analyzing the data, there's also the need to be able to, how can I put it, make these models, these artifacts available to other departments or other users to be able to use them. And so you needed a group of guys that really understood how the machines work and how can I put it, how they could embed all these artifacts or models or dashboards or visualizations and be able to make sure that these systems are working properly. So it was not really the guys, they were not really, I would say, they don't really concentrate on the data, but they concentrate on everything, all the processes around the data. So, for example, making sure the infrastructure is working, the computer is up, the data, the incoming data is kept in a certain location and it's well processed. So these guys, they really manage a little bit all the stuff around the processes or the pipelines created by the data scientists. Then you had the data visualization specialists. So around I think 2010, so the we had now more processing power. The machines or the laptops or whatever you call them became more powerful, and then the CEOs or the bosses were not just satisfied with having static images. They wanted to have dashboards where they could change, for example, certain parameters. For example, if you would provide a dashboard saying, okay, the sales of week 20 is like $20, they were also interested to make comparisons like, but what was the sales from week 19, week 18? So they wanted to be able to tweak all these parameters themselves and see the figures. So then you needed a group of specialists who could create such kind of interactive dashboards that could really tell a story and not just one static image. So it's really like a dashboard that will be able to glue static images of data over time. And then you can be able to tell stories with this data. So we needed really good people to develop this kind of interactive dashboards for storytelling. And then later became the data architects. So after a while, the kinds of tools that were in the market became also, can I put it, the development of tools became really advanced, and pretty much you would get new tools every year or so. And so you needed someone to be able to select the tools that you would need to create the kinds of dashboards or pipelines that you wanted to create. So you needed someone that really understood, that would be able to take your needs in terms of infrastructure, in terms of kinds of analysis that you want to perform, and match them together with the available tools that were in the market. So the guys needed to be a little bit technical, but not really data savvy. So they don't really need to understand the insights of your processes that generate the kinds of data, but then they needed to understand in terms of just high level what kind of analysis you want to carry out and match this with the tools that were available. And then with a lot of data also came the Data Privacy Act. So it became obvious that with so much information about someone, you could do all kinds of things that were also harmful. And so the government started putting in place policies that all these companies had to respect in terms of data privacy. So, for example, like the GDPR, I don't know if you know about it, but it basically says, for example, companies cannot use data um, to create models that are discriminative. For example, if you would need to take a loan, yeah, the model really needs to be able not to discriminate between races, sex, and stuff like that. So all these data governance things started coming into place. So you needed someone that really understood the policies and then also understood the environment in which these models or data artifacts are being created. So these rules were not really technical people per se, because you don't need to code, but you just needed someone that could be able to read all the policies that are available and be able to understand that at certain point in the data pipeline, a data scientist can come to you and say, okay, I need to make a model um, for identifying people's faces or something like that, or that would need the information of people's faces. So the data governance guy will say, no, according to policy X, you cannot do that. So it's not really a technical person, but someone that can just, yeah, I'll say read and interpret policies. So I think this is a little bit a summary of the evolutions of the roles that you can find in this space. But this list is not exhaustive, so I'm just looking at the key players or the key roles that really, I would say, were like the main or the that produce some effect in the data and analytics space. But there are other roles that you can find in this space. And to close it up, you have what we call the chief data officer. So this is also not really a technical role, but it's yeah, it's the role that really oversees the organization strategy in terms of data. So how, if you would want to incorporate data into your ways of working, this person will be the one that will shape a little bit how the data will be used. For example, do you go really advanced in terms of you cannot make a decision that is not supported by data, or someone can make a decision and then can check if data really, how can I say, if data supports this kind of supports the decision you're about to make. But there are extreme cases that go as far as say you cannot make a decision unless it is supported by data. So the data strategy or the chief data officer is the person that needs to put in place these kinds of policies together with the CEO and whatever. So that's a little bit a summary of the key roles. I don't know if you have questions at this point.
I was just wondering, is it a typo error? Because for like data governance specialist and chief data officer, I see 1960. Is that correct?
Sorry. Yes, there's a typo. I think that's 20. Yeah, indeed. So this like 20 up. I'll correct it after. But indeed, so the data governance specialist is about 20, I think 2020, and chief data officer, I think 2021. Thanks. I'll make that correction. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe just to like for our audience that are non-technical, so looking at the roles, some interesting roles could be like maybe data analysis, not to that technical, like believe so data visualization, data governance. Those are roles that are not really technical.
Yeah. So for example, like I said, data analyst. So for example, we have, like I would show, I think when I will, in fact, in the next slide, I will show you, for example, you have what we call support roles. So these are guys that are not really the doing the data and analytics work per se, but they support the guys that do the data and analytics work. And I think for really people that are non-technical or that want to stay non-technical, you can definitely fit in the supporting roles. And also what I see is, for example, you have people that start very technical, but then as you evolve, you instead go to the more supportive roles. Because for example, there's also the aspect of scaling. So for example, if you're a very technical person, the only thing you can only do it by yourself. So for example, if there's work to be done, you can only do it by yourself. But then if you take your technical skills and you combine this with project management skills, you can actually build a team around you that you can help, I would say, manage. And in this case, you can scale the team, you can do much more work. So you find more technical people after certain years of experience moving to the more supportive roles. But it doesn't mean that because the role is a supportive role, you don't need to have technical skills. No, you can also have people that have technical skills. In this case, they will be more able to support the technical guys, you see. So, for example, you have hospitals, but then sometimes you have directors of hospitals that are actually doctors, and they can really understand the needs and of the other doctors. But you can also have sometimes purely administrative people that are there to manage the administrative day-to-day work of the hospital. So it's also like a strategy, but most of the time, I'd say the supporting role on a day-to-day, I'd say basis, you don't need to do too much technical stuff. So in the next couple of slides, I will try to look at the supportive roles, the data roles, so like also people that are not technical, but are there to make sure that the data is, yeah, the data quality is good, the data governance policies are in place, all these kinds of things. And then you have the analytics guys who are really there to do the crunching of the data, building the dashboards, in fact, the technical people. So we will see these kinds of roles in the next slides. I don't know if there are questions here at this stage. No?
It's okay for me though. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so we look at the current situation. What does it mean like working in a data analytics role? Like I said, I try to put them in three different buckets. So you have the support roles, you have the data roles, and you have the analytics roles. So from left to right, I'd say it's increasing technicality. So by technicality, I mean you need to have programming skills, good analytic skills in your tool set. But yeah, like I said, going from, and there's also something that I should say at this point, and I said it I think at the beginning of the slide. No two roles are the same. And when you see sometimes a job description, please really look into the, I'd say, the requirements or the day-to-day activities of what is required. Sometimes they write a data scientist, but sometimes what they really need is just maybe someone that will be just overseeing, making sure the data governance policies are in place. So there's a whole lot of confusion in this space, and sometimes it's not really clear what the role is all about. And sometimes it's only when you even get into the role and then you understand that maybe they put a role for data scientists, but what they actually need was a data analyst. So please don't really pay too much attention on the title, but try to look at, yeah, the content. Is it really an analytic role? Is it a data role, or is this something just to support these other two roles? And then based on this kind of roles, we can look at the skill sets that are required, and then you can best judge for yourself where you are in terms of skills and where you can easily go based on your affinities in terms of technicality, people management, project management, and stuff. So if we start with the support roles, I think we already saw this one. So you have the chief data officer. So this is quite a high, I would say. This, I think, the highest role in terms of data analytics. So this is like the chief data officer. So yeah, it's an executive role. So you're basically managing people, managing processes, managing resources. So it's a non-technical role. It's a more strategic, I would say. It's more role. It's more strategic role. So it's not technical, but it's more strategy and more, I'd say, high level in terms of people management and stuff like that. But this is a support role because you are there to, for example, put in place or validate the kinds of policies that need to be use within the different data and analytics teams. So these people are the ones that are even there to design pretty much the different teams within the analytics department or the data department, if you call it like that. And then you have the data analytics manager. So these ones, yeah, together with the CDOs, they define a little bit all the key responsibilities. They select, for example, the project that you're going to work on and stuff like that. So this one also, if you have a little bit some seniority and just some good people management slash project management skills, yeah, you can easily, and also depending the kind of company, if it's a startup, yeah, pretty much anyone can have any role within a startup. A startup is your company, so you can decide to give yourself any title, and then based on that title, then you can over time learn all these skills. So they are not, yeah, they are not. How can I put it? It's not like you cannot do it. But just keep in mind the kind of activities that are involved. So it's basically strategy, managing people, selecting the kinds of projects that you work on. Then the data architects. So, like I said, these are the guys that understand a little bit the business in terms of data. So, when I say they understand the business needs when it comes to data. What kind of data um, strategy they need to put in place? For example, if you're working in a sector that you need to have models, yeah, the data architects will be the one to decide what kind of platforms you need to use to be able to deploy your models to other users. So this is, I would say, technical roles in terms of understanding, yeah, the the different or the overall IT infrastructure that needs to be put in place. So here you're mainly dealing with tools and stuff like that. Sorry, I put this 2 times. Then you have the analyst. So, like I said, the analyst is not a single role. It's actually a spectrum of roles. And depending on the kind of use case and the skills that are required, they can give certain names to the analyst. You can have a business analyst, you can have a data analyst. They give so many names. For example, if I take the case of the people in the call like Gwendolyn with business management or business process management, so these are the people that really understand processes, understand the business. And so if you understand the process and the business, you definitely understand the kind of data that the business is generating and the kind of data that that business needs to be able to generate insights. So these are the kind of people that I think can easily get roles within this analyst space. So really understanding the processes, the business itself, the data that you need and the data that is generated. And then you can be able to instruct, for example, other more technical rules. Yeah, what the data pretty much is all about and how to analyze this data. Then you come, for example, then you have the project managers. Yeah, you just basically manage the project, but then I think you need to understand a little bit how data teams work. Mostly it's in they work, allez, they try to work in agile. Though it's not easy, but more and more you find data teams working in agile mode. So then you have stuff like Scrum coming into place. And I think this is also a role that I think non-technical people more and more are easily getting into this space. And then as a project manager, I'm sure pretty much every day you see how these data analysts like data architects work. And then you can judge for yourself because then you are in there. You can see, okay, is it something I want to try? Because then you have a hands-on experience on what they do on a day-to-day basis. So this is a summary of, I would say, of the supportive roles. So you really go from the really, really technical roles to, I would say, non-technical roles such as project managers. But I would say, if you're looking into getting into this space, I would say the analyst space, like I said, is quite broad. You can have business analysts, data analysts, pretty much they mean one and the same thing. But it's, if you can easily understand processes, you can easily understand the business, then I think this role is pretty much for something you can do. Because, for example, we also have another name for analyst is a data translator. So what that simply means, it's yeah, you go to the very business, I would say business minded people. So you have, for example, in banks, you have the guys working at the counter that give out loans and stuff. Most of the times these guys, they have no idea about the data infrastructure put in place. So sometimes they need someone to bridge the gap between them and the data engineers, or I'll call them data analysts. So you need to have someone that understands how a bank works and how all the processes in the banks evolve, and then how also they need to understand also what the data scientist needs to do their job. So then sometimes you just translate what the front end people want, which are the front end bankers, to actually the back end people. So for example, maybe the banker can say, I would need maybe a process that can easily help me to identify someone that would default on their loan. This is all that they know. So then you need someone that understands, okay, but what does it mean someone defaults on their loan? So you need to translate this business term into actually an analytics term, which the data guys will understand. So then you help to do these translations between the front end and the back end people. So, but then sometimes in the banking sector, we call these data translators, but I don't know how it's called um, in other sectors. And sometimes other sectors, they just call them data analysts. Simple as that. I don't know if you have some questions on the supporting or support roles.
Now I'm happy that you clarify on that translator because someone might see it and think you are translating from Dutch to English.
No, no, no. It's just a term that, yeah, each sector has their own term. They call it a data translator, but it's actually just translating what the business is saying to actually what the data guys understand. Because if you're a data scientist or a data analyst, and the chief, or I don't know, the chief um, or the business guys that come from the banks just say, okay, I need to have a model that I see Brian. Yeah, you can ask the question, I think, or yeah, Brian, you can go ahead. I see you raise your hand. Brian, I think you're on mute, or maybe you can put the question in the chat. Yeah, I don't know. Brian, I think is trying to. Ivo, can you check with Brian?
Okay. It's
Okay.
now enabled. I think I will
Okay.
made them on enable. Yeah, I'm the one who has a question regarding the data analyst. So I
Yeah.
actually saw recently a role, and they said they're looking for a data steward. Could you try to explain, give us some insights
Yeah.
on the data stewardship, please?
Okay. So indeed, those are the data roles. So like we now move from those were we talked about the support roles. Now we go into the data steward roles. So these are like, I'd say, people that really deal with the data. Like the data engineers are the ones that collaborate together with the business and IT to be able to capture the data that is produced by the process. For example, in the bank, you will capture the transactions of the people, how much you spend, how much you borrowed, and stuff like that. So you capture this data and you have to put it in a data warehouse. So it's just a place where you store data. In terms of, when we talk in terms of IT, that's what it's called, a data warehouse. So, but their role, for example, data engineers, their role is, yeah, for building, managing, and operationalizing data pipelines. So going from capturing the data and actually putting in place data warehouses where people can go in to fetch this data. So that's really the work of data engineer. And then now you have the data stewards. So these are I would say these are the point of reference in terms of if you're looking for data. So for example, if you're in the bank and you want to have information about all the borrowers, in fact, the borrowers database. So this database can have information about people that have borrowed money from the bank. You see, so the data stewards are the first point of reference that you go to ask this kind of data. So pretty much they data stewards have, I would say, an overview of all the available data that you can find. So they know the data. You understand? I don't know if I explain it well, but data stewards are simply the guys that know the data. They add additional information if it's not enough. So for example, if you have data, for example, when you borrow money, okay, a system produces um, information that, okay, person A borrowed money, the amount, the time you need to refund, and then the data steward goes and looks at this data and say, okay, that's good, but then he adds information and say this data is produced by system A, you know. So they add all the necessary information that you need to have um, on all the information that is available. So as a data steward, it's just, I think, someone with a good business understanding. So you need to understand the process that produces this data. So it's not really a technical role. It's a role that just needs to document stuff, but then you need to understand, I think, the process that generates this data so that you can be able to add all the missing or any other additional information that someone would need to be able to produce quality reports and yeah, and be able to have quality data when they need it. Because sometimes it's not really clear. For example, if a new data scientist joins a bank or any other sector, just sometimes trying to understand where you can find what information is not easy. So data stewards can really be of help in this scenario because they know exactly the location of all the data within an enterprise.
Victor, when you say the data steward identifies, let's say, loopholes or gaps, which they have to augment the data, and
Yep.
they have to add, so they have to augment the data. Do they like really have to write the codes, like let's
No, no,
say,
no, 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 no.
oh, okay,
You don't write any code here. Really, these guys are really how can I put it? For example, like I just gave the example of, let's say you have in the bank, you have a software that the front end managers will use to input your information. You come to the bank, you want to borrow money, yeah, you give your ID. This system captures all this information, and then it sends this information to a data warehouse or to a data lake, and then a data engineer creates a pipeline that takes this information, removes all information that is not needed, and sends this data into a data warehouse. And then while in the data warehouse, for example, the data stewards comes and looks at the data and they notice, okay, no, but you didn't add the time when the person borrowed the money. It's not located in that data, you see? And also you didn't add which system generated that data. So what they can do is they can just add a metadata that identifies, for example, or they can tell the data engineer, sorry, we need to have the time when the person borrowed the money, and we also need to have maybe a field explaining which system produced the data. You see?
in that case, I think this is more like yeah, you mentioned, for me, it's more like a support role because you just more like documentation, identify
Yeah,
things. Yeah,
it's a support role, but then really based on data. Your
yeah,
work is really, yeah, you're only around data, pretty much.
okay.
And also sometimes a data stewards can also be a, how can I put it? You can also add someone like a data governance person. Sometimes data stewards also take this kind of roles. So sometimes you can take the data and then you can also look, oh, for example, they are capturing information about somebody's I don't know, address, or in fact the data contains some sensitive information about someone. Then the data steward can say, okay, no, this information is not supposed to be there. And so the data stewards is really the first person when you need to go to in terms of when you have data issues or you need to discover or identify places where you can get data within an organization.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that explanation. So which means, I'm sorry, I really missed a lot of. I missed a lot at the beginning. I was struggling to sign in. I couldn't. So, in essence, the data steward needs to understand some of the GDPR laws around data, right?
Yeah.
And my next question is, are all these processes already put in place by the company? So, in essence, the data steward needs to understand these processes before taking a proper look at the data to identify those missing gaps, right?
Yeah. So like I said, the data stewards need to understand one, the processes that generate this information.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, the company policies in place when it comes in terms of data.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, external policies like GDPR and
Mm-hmm.
how they can affect data within an organization. So you
Okay.
need to understand internal the processes, internal policies and external policies. And then
Okay.
you are the liaison between internally people that want to discover what data is available within your organization and the people that want to use it. So you are sitting on top of data and then you are telling people, okay, yeah, you need this data, okay, this is where it's located. And at the same time, you make sure that the quality of the data is good, if you put it like that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. But like I said, most of the time, my how can I put, I would always say, just try to look really at the job description, because sometimes in some organizations you can find a data engineer doing the work of a data steward. Sometimes a data steward can also be doing things that are required for a data engineer. So really the you really need to look in details, but in principle, yeah, these are the things that are supposed to be, a data steward is supposed to be doing. You're supposed to just, yeah, see, you are sitting on data, but at the same time making sure the quality of the data that you're sitting on is good. I don't know if there are other questions here.
Yeah, I really want to ask another question. I'm really sorry to take you guys a little bit behind because I had some doubts on also issues like the data governance. I don't really
Yeah.
understand that concept so well. It's not very clear to me.
um so just to make it a little bit simpler, when you say data governance, is just like I said, you have the processes that generate data, and then you have internal policies around data. So, for example, data governance can simply mean, like, I can give a simple example within the bank. It can simply mean you are responsible for the quality of the data. So, for example, if you have a system or software that captures, yeah, the people that borrow money within the bank, and let's say on average each month, the bank expects 500 people to borrow money, and then at some point in time there's a database that captures this information. You are supposed to be able to design, for example, yeah, a process that will be able to, that will enable you tell at each point in time if the quality of that data is good or not. So the data engineer will write the pipeline, but the data governance guy is the one that really gives a stamp. Like when you put your stamp saying, okay, this data, the quality is good, you really have to make sure it's good because you have put in place things that are going to check the quality of the data. So, for example, if you have, the bank has 2,000 customers, and we would expect every month for the database to always have 2,000 customers. Sometimes you can have duplicates, and so you need to put in place things that will check all these kind of things. They are not duplicates. The quality is good. The amounts that are in there are really valid. and stuff like that. So the data governance guy is the guy that puts in place, yeah, mechanisms, processes, pipelines to check the quality of data.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, but maybe at the end of the call we can, yeah, we can go deeper. I will just put a little bit. I'll write down the questions, and then maybe when we have time at the end, we can dig deep into the, yeah, data steward slash data governance. But like I
Okay.
said, these roles are a little bit confusing because if you go from company A to company B, the
Mhm,
data governance guy is doing maybe just only GDPR. You go to
mhm.
company B, he's doing putting in place tools, processes to be able to make sure the quality is good. So yeah, but the whole thing about data governance is, yeah, you are, yeah, you govern the data. When it means to govern, it means, yeah, you take responsibility of the data. You set the rules and principles that need to be abide by all data citizens or all people using data. You see, so for example, you can say, okay, no, not no, non or unauthorized persons can access data, and you need to make sure that this rule is followed. But like I said, going from enterprise A to B, it's, yeah, you can have completely different um, requirements for these rules. Good. So maybe, yeah, we go a little bit faster. Um, And then for the really technical or analytical roles, so you have the data scientists. So these are the guys that really, yeah, I'll say crunch the data. They use really their technical programming skills, a little bit IT data skill to be able to get insights from the data. You have the engineers that really put things into production. So they make sure that the models that are developed by data scientists are being deployed into AI systems or software systems. And then you have in between the people that are called citizen data scientists. So these ones are the, can I put it? They're the ones that really, um, in fact, they really try to scale the use of analytical tools within a company. So sometimes they are not very technical, but then they can use tools that already have AI or, yeah, machine learning slash artificial intelligence components to be able to carry fast analysis within an enterprise. So they are a little bit in between the data scientists and AI engineers because they are not so technical, but then at the same time they are the ones that really analyze data a lot. Are there any questions here? No.
Yes, I have a
Ah,
question, Victor. Are
sorry.
they
Yeah.
also are these people also called the BIs, business intelligence analyst, the data
Citizen
citizens?
data scientist, yes, you can
Mhm.
call the citizen data scientist business intelligence. Yeah, you can call them business intelligence because most of the time they are just using um, the tools that already have AI components in them to generate insights.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hello, Victor. I have a question.
Ah, yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
I was just wondering. So for the support rules in data, can you, I mean, can you have like an entry? So for example, can you begin your journey in data with in either of these support rules? Is it
yeah.
possible?
Like I said, you can open your company and assume any of these roles. Huh? When you start your company, no one will tell
Okay.
you. You can
Okay.
become, sorry, you can become the
Okay.
chief data officer.
Okay. Yeah.
But most of
Okay.
the time it's really the analyst. I would say it's easy to get, like, either you're an analyst or you're like a project manager or something. I think in terms of the support roles, these are the ones that are like the easiest paths to
Mm-hmm.
get in, because with the analyst, like I said, just understanding how things work, so the process and the data that it generates, and then I think you're good to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And so yes, so Sorry, guys, I'm a bit sick. So then in terms of the future, so what does the future hold in terms of all these roles? Um, why do I say that? I don't know if you guys have heard about generative AI, but this is I would say, one of the things that is causing a lot of anxiety, or can I put it, a lot of fear in terms of how the roles of the future would look like. Because the generative AI pretty much can do, I'd say, most of the things that, yeah, you would expect in terms of the support roles, um, yeah, the support and data roles. I would say, when it comes to generative AI, it can actually do a lot. So, for example, if you see the use case here, the example, you can just, for example, you look at the prompts as a quality assurance engineer, validating financial system, generate CSV file, that. So you can actually just ask the system to generate you a sample data file, and it will do that. It will spit it out for you. So it can generate, yeah, data for you, which you can then use to test systems and stuff like that. So in terms of supportive roles that are not really technical, these AI systems are, yeah, they are really there, and they are causing a lot of fear in terms of how these roles would evolve. So yeah, you can do data quality checks. You can scale. You can do a lot of things. Another example, it can also generate code for you. So in fact, these systems are really, have the potential to disrupt most of the roles that we've talked about. So even the technical ones as well, because you can imagine, you can ask the system to write code for you. You can also do quality checks in your code and stuff like that, customer service. So you can actually use these AI systems of the future to do quite a lot of stuff within the whole data and analytics space that we've looked at. So yeah, I know people are asking, but then what new rules would emerge? From my experience, I can say a new tool in your toolbox doesn't make you a different carpenter, but it just helps you to drive nails more efficiently. If you take the case of a carpenter, so if you look at all the different rules that we've talked about, those rules are still going to be there for a long time. But then how these rules are executed will change. So then you would need to have people that really understand these systems, this kind of systems, and you will need to understand how you can use these systems to do your work. And if you are not able to integrate the use of these systems in your work, I bet you would, yeah, you would lose your carpenter job in less than no time. If you're a carpenter and you don't know how to use a hammer, then yeah, I don't know what you were using before, but you see, when new tools come, you need to be able to adapt yourself to use all these tools. Otherwise, yeah, you cannot follow. So with generative AI as well, most of the different rules we've talked about, they will evolve as well. But I think the basic understanding of those rules will remain. So for example, the business analyst will still be there. So for example, you can have a question from someone saying, oh, I need to develop, in fact, I need to have a model that predicts, for example, when someone is going to default on their payment. And then you enter that prompt in a generative AI system, and you can ask it to translate that into an analytics problem, and it's going to do that for you. But then you need to be able to understand the response that is going to give you back, to be able to maybe adjust one or two things before you can use it. So we need to just a change of mindset to be able to incorporate all these new systems um, into our way of life, depending on what role you want to add, you intend to I would say, to take on as a career. Just know that there is something called generative AI, which is there to stay and is going nowhere. And the earlier you can make use of it, the better for you. So if you've not come across generative AI or you've been using it, yeah, for like just your normal Google, just know that you can also use it for other use cases. And in terms of supportive roles, reading documents, for example, imagine there is also, for example, the new AI Act. So it's like a new policy put forward by the EU to be able to regulate how we build new artificial intelligence systems. And this document is like hundreds of pages. But then you can just put that document into a generative AI system, saying, okay, this is the new AI Act, and my company is involved in yeah. You describe a little bit what you do, and then you ask it what are the impact that this AI Act or new policy can have on my data, um, with my data governance policy, and it's going to give you back, for example, concrete things that you can do within your organization to be able to protect yourself from such an AI Act. But then you can also go the route of trying to read the document by yourself. But then just know that there's going to be someone beside you that's just going to put this prompt and get the answer in 1 minute. And then, yeah, you can choose to use days to get it. But that's the way forward. So, in any of the roles that you've seen before, just know that there's something called AI or generative AI that is there to stay. And it will really, really change a lot going forward the way all of these rules are being carried out on a day-to-day basis. So that's it. And I think I had also one slide here just to also maybe these are some words that yeah you can or some rules that you can, I would say, also look at. So for example, when it comes to business processes and use cases, then you can see the roles that are really, really specific to those to that people working with just data, understanding business processes and the use cases. So you have the business process owner, so you understand the process, and so yeah, you can really decide what use cases you will take and what use cases you will not take. And in there you have the business analyst, like I said, so the person that really understands the processes. And from the processes, when I say use cases are just the types of projects that you want to carry on. And then you have the data modeling, so the people that really understand, okay, the business is generating this kind of data. And then yeah, they have also, they understand the IT, the infrastructure. You have the data owner, someone that really understands the data. You have the data steward, you have the data modeler, so you have someone that really designs a system that would capture a little bit, or how can I put it, put some more um, allez, structure on the data that is generated by the different processes. Sometimes the process generates data that is not really formatted, and then you need to put in place a process that will translate the data that's not formatted to actually a formatted data. And then that's where you have the data modeling guys. And then you also have data quality analysts. These guys, they really analyze, or they can help the data steward put in place processes that can really or reports that can actually yeah give you good data quality checks, like that. And then in other spaces you have the yeah what they call data custodian. So you also look after the data, you make sure that the data is available, nothing is wrong, everything is moving fine. Then you have the guys that really also understand the physical systems on which this data are kept. So there you have the more technical roles, the data engineers. They need to understand how to use compute and storage to be able to analyze data. So in summary, these are like, I would say, typical roles that you would expect to find within this space. So yeah, that's it from me. Maybe we can take in some questions. Yes, Vanessa, see you raise your hand.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to ask that can you like throw more light on the different tools that we can leverage on depending on whatever roles we like want to choose?
Um, so yeah, my advice is always not to focus too much on tools, but yeah, there are also some tools that you can use. But I would tell you, when it comes to tools, there are like thousands of tools within this space. And going from company A to company B might mean you might use a complete different tool set. But if you want to stay ahead of the game, I would say you can choose a tool stack. So a tool stack is a combination of tools that are offered by a given enterprise. So for example, if we take Azure or Microsoft, you can have tools for doing pretty much all the different tasks within the data and analytics space within Azure. So, for example, the guys doing the business process owner, you just need something for documenting a little bit all your processes, your use cases. So, this is a little bit, I would say, uh, business analyst and business process owner. You just need something to understand your business processes. And so, I don't think there's any specific tool I would advise anyone to really master because there is just something to document, and you can always find something. But I would say just yeah, Microsoft, they have something you can, yeah, even Excel, don't be surprised. Excel, you can go to some companies and they just use Excel for documenting pretty much everything. Someone you have Agile Centrum, there are so many tools. And sometimes, yeah, I don't want to call the name of a tool, and then someone goes and spends all their time trying to understand the tool, and then, yeah, and you don't find it um, when like when as part of the requirements for a job. Or one other approach is you can also maybe just try to look for the your dream job and just try to have document pretty much the list of tools that are in there. But most of the time, I would say, for example, data stewards and enterprise architects, yeah, you have um in terms of what's it called again, oh, I forgot the name. I just forgot the name, but I think if I remember, I can give you. Um,
GSAP?
yeah, SAP. Yeah, indeed. That one I think most of the time they use it there, but from my experience, it just depends on the company because, for example, in the financial sector, I think more and more they are going away from these tools and trying to use more, as I would say, flexible tools that allow you to document stuff and that are also linked to the data. For example, you have platforms like Databricks. I don't know if you've heard about it, but this platform also try to offer tools for everything within the data and analytics space. So you have the data stewards, they give them possibility to document, add metadata on all the different stages of your data. The enterprise architect, yeah, you don't really need a tool. You just need to understand all the IT involved. Data owner as well, just need tools around data warehousing. So in terms of Microsoft, you have the Azure Snaps Analytics. So yeah, there are like thousands of tools. Huh? So for me, it's do not really. Though I understand you need to have a little bit some tools in your toolbox. Um, but maybe I can try to do a little bit some research and then I can send that to you so that I before I recommend something, I should be sure that yeah, that's something that is there to stay. So I will just write that down and then we can communicate that to you later. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, but Victor, just to add as well, I think the next phase of this event is we have a one-on-one with them for career coaching. So we
Yeah.
identify which role will be suitable or is going to be a good match for each of them. Then from that career path, then we can start already filtering some of the tools that they are popular and they have high demand right now. But like you mentioned, it's not about the tool. Recently, I made a post on LinkedIn and I was explaining about the skill and the tool. So you should focus on getting the skill, because if
Skill,
you
yeah.
master the skill, you can use any tool to apply the skill. So, but I do understand that, even the recruiters nowadays, they are looking for tools. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somehow to learn the skill, you have to learn the tool as well.
Yeah, learning with the tool indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
So we are saying these roles are supportive roles, like entering roles into data. But I realize from lots of job when I'm searching for any role, I realize most of the companies they are asking for too much from the candidate. So my question is, what level of technicality is required for these roles?
So when I said something is a support role, it doesn't mean it's not technical. Like I said in the beginning, most of the time, even when you see these supportive roles, they are occupied by technical people that have acquired business skills over the years, and they are also getting old, and they're also tired of doing too much technical things, and they move into the supportive roles, because also there they can really, I think they can really support way more technical people, and they can have way more impact because they understand the business. They've worked they've worked they worked for a long time there. They understand the whole IT. They know what's possible, what's not possible. So as somebody that's supporting other people that are actually doing the work, as people that are supporting there, you can be more effective. So really the support roles can instead be the ones that are really or I would say required a lot, like way more experience than the technical roles. The technical roles, you can easily just direct someone to do something technical. For example, building a house, you can just tell someone, okay, put the bricks one on top of another, and simple like that. But then to become an architect and to be able to, yeah, manage all these people, you see that you are supporting them, but in fact, you need to have way more experience to be able to support them. So in my experience, the technical roles are the ones that it's quite easy to get in, rather than instead the supportive roles. But i- you can still get the supportive roles. But I'm just saying, for example, the data steward, sometimes it might be a data analyst that has really worked over years within an organization and say, okay, I want to become a data steward. But at the same time, I think this role is also open, like I just mentioned, for example, with the coming of like generative AI, you find that the newer generation can easily use these tools to overcome this experience gap. Like there's so many things that you can just Google now, or you can ask generative AI, which back in the days you would need to have gathered a lot of experience to be able to know all these things. So I would say the supportive roles, more and more, I would say it will be open and it's easier to get in for non-technical people wanting to work in the data field. I don't know if that was okay. Next question.
Maybe I don't know, like Lucia, Gwendolyn. I know you guys have like you're from the like your marketing and or like the other backgrounds
Yeah.
as well. I don't know if you have specific questions on how you can transition. This is an opportunity for you to ask your questions. You might have something specific, so you can use this as a as like an opportunity to ask something specific about you, how. So maybe make use of this forum.
Yeah, okay. I don't know, like what the last time we were talking on the forum. So actually I really want to venture into digital marketing. So I don't know. I was asking Ivo what really concerning this data analytics, what
Yeah.
specifically, because like I say, I have
Dimini?
a little background,
Okay,
a
sorry.
Yeah.
little background on BI and SQL and
Yeah.
project
Okay.
management. Yeah, those are
Yeah.
just not really details. So
Yeah.
I don't know what really can I really do when it comes to data analytics? Because when you were talking, I wrote down some points concerning the support roles. I think BI, data steward, and one something else again. I think those are the two. If I really want to do data, those are the
Yeah.
two things that really drew my attention. So maybe you can give more light.
So wait, sorry if I understand. You said something about digital marketing.
Yes, yes,
So yeah, but in my opinion, digital marketing is not really per se a data analytics role, but at the same
definitely.
time, data and analytics can help them do their job very well.
That is what I am asking. That is
So,
what I
for
am
example, let's
asking.
say you are a digital marketer. I think
Mm-hmm.
the basic concept is using digital medium to get to your customers.
Definitely. Like,
So number one, I think as a digital marketer, you would have maybe a database of all your customers. First thing,
definitely. Yeah.
you would need to be able to select which customers you want to send, and then you might say, okay, you might select, oh, which customers have an email address, which don't,
Mm-hmm.
so that your
Mm-hmm.
SQL skills come into place. And then you might have a model, or you can do some SQL again to say, oh, maybe just rank my customers based on how much they spend.
Okay.
So that's still SQL. And but then number two, you can have also the business that say, okay, we are putting in place a promotion, and in this promotion we wanted to target these kinds of customers. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to translate what the business marketer or the your marketing team wants to do
Mm-hmm.
into actual digital strategy.
Yeah.
So then I think there your digital skills come into play, your business understanding also come into play. So you are also, I think, a digital marketing engineer. It's also like I would say an analyst. Huh? You put it in other
Okay.
terms. For me,
Oh,
it's just like I say, based on the sector in which you are, it's
yeah.
called something else. But
Yeah.
basically, I'd say that's a data analyst or a business intelligence person. So you just need to have business understanding, a little bit of SQL. And there, I think you even sometimes just drag and drop. You don't really need to write code. You just need to know, okay, what am I doing? How do I select my customers? Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
you're in a technical environment. You're dealing with digital information,
Mm-hmm.
which we call data per se. So
Yeah.
it's I think yeah, you can look at it in terms of you just need to maybe just try to I think over time try to translate a little bit what the marketing team is trying to do into business strategy or into an
Mm-hmm.
analytical solution by knowing, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, I need to rank my customers. Or if there's a business model, for example, sometimes it might be, oh, we want to target people that are likely to leave us.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so but then you need to map what does it mean somebody is likely to leave us. That's
Mm-hmm.
English.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
data it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. It sounds
So
different.
maybe
Yeah.
that might mean you go into your database and target, oh, people that didn't come to the shop the last 3 months. That's a definition. But then maybe
Mm-hmm.
you might need to come up with three, four kinds of definition. Then you validate this together with the business, and then you come back and then you target them. So a little bit of this kind of things. I think, yeah, just this kind of way of thinking. You need to, yeah, you need to, I'd say, be comfortable with.
Okay. Thank you.
For me, I had a more how do you say it? A more
You're the
clearer picture of where I was trying to get to. So what I
okay,
was looking at was more like the business analysis part, or to be a
okay,
business analyst. But then you give like a broad, you're giving other supportive roles around it. And like you said, I noted a few. I equally
yeah,
have. I just graduated with a business degree, but I have some programming, some
okay,
data visualizations too, and then I've been dabbling with other things online. But what I really wanted was how to move now from I read with business works, but to move from like the business field and then to more like a data analyst kind of
yeah,
job. So
yeah.
how do I move from like a business student
Um,
or business somebody who's working in business to working as a data analyst? That was more
yeah.
like
I mean,
question.
I always tell people there is no like, how can I put it? There's no single way to transition, and the best way sometimes is if you actually are working already in a company. You see, as I don't know, a business analyst or something. It's my advice is it's very easy to transition because the recruiters are very like they put like they oversell the job descriptions sometimes. For example, sometimes they say we want 2+ years of experience working as a data analyst, but there's no way you can get this experience if you are not exposed to working as a business analyst, or if you don't have a technical degree or something like that. And another way is also maybe just trying to do an internship. So you can just look online, look at the company that's doing something that you want to do, and then you go in as an intern. Sometimes there's less barrier to get in to do internship, and once you're inside, then it's easy um, to get to transition into these roles. Or you can easily or decide, okay, I can go the route of getting a business analyst degree or following a degree program, but in my experience, it's not really worth it. If you can, yeah, if I know it's quite difficult also to get a role like a business, I don't know, business intelligence officer or whatever. But in terms of concretely how to get into this space, I would say look for internships and yeah, or if you already have the opportunity to working in a company, then you can easily switch within roles, like switch roles to another to a more technical role or something like that.
Yeah, but switching roles equally requires having certain skills. That's what I'm asking. So, to be a business or data
And
analyst, like
yeah,
what particular things could I look at? What should I? Because I was
okay,
looking at everything. It's like
yeah,
programming. It's like I'm doing Python. I'm
mm,
doing SQL. I'm doing all of those. So I think it's a lot. So I was trying to look for like
okay.
what
But the
specific
thing is,
things.
yeah, I think maybe we can look at it outside this to for me to really evaluate. But I would say number one, you need to have, for example, be able to use dashboarding tools to be able to create dashboards, to be able to
Okay.
use SQL, understand what a database is, a data warehouse, how to get the data that you need. So just run some SQL queries and create dashboards. I'd say basically these are the things that are required or are required of you, or the skills that you need. And also, like I said, translating business questions into analytical questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want to add, just like what Ivo said, there's going to be like a career coaching, so like a one-on-one. So um, we'll be able to give you like specific requirements or
Yeah,
answer your question specifically. For example, like the question that Bitame just asked.
Okay.
yeah. For example, we can evaluate where you are in terms of
Yeah.
skills, and then okay, looking at the role you intend to move to, then yeah, we can tell you what's the gap in there. and what's the potential that you can fill this gap in a reasonable amount of time, and yeah, and the easiness or to get a job within the space based on what I see in your CV slash what you, yeah, pretty much what are your aspirations.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. um I think we can get one more question.
Yeah, because we're almost on time. It's
Yeah,
almost time.
so just one more question, then we can call it quit. But I think then if you still, yeah, if you think about something else, I think you can always reach out to Ivor and Dam, I think. Then they can, yeah, they can always send me an email or something. I can get back to you. All right. Thanks guys. I think that was it for me, and thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Victor. Was this
Thank you.
session recorded?
Yes, I will send out for you guys who you receive the link to the record.
Recordings. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Okay,
much.
thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Have a
Bye.
good evening. Bye.
Have a great
Good
evening.
evening.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you all.